tennis shots, because I would come down from Fort Worth, and I'm not too shabby of a tennis player, but you'd get onto these clay courts and these old guys would slice you and lob you to death. So I would never win. And, you know, Jerry Johnson, if you wouldn't mind coming up, we have...
You're going to be an old guy someday.
We need someday.
So somebody gave your talk, Bob. You found a few things to say. Now, what am I going to say? There are a couple of things about Stan that always cross my mind whenever I think about Stan. And anybody who knew him thought about him a lot, because he was an interesting guy. He was probably one of the more enthusiastic and persistent men I have ever met, and I doubt that he ever failed at anything he set out to do, because that was Stan. That's the way he operated. The other thing I think about is I'm convinced, most of us who knew him over the last 20 years or so, primarily from tennis, and most of this is from tennis, of course, and what would you expect of a guy who had Mr. Tennis on his license plate? We are going to talk about tennis. But I'm convinced there was a cat in Stan's family someplace, because he certainly had 9 lives, and many of us lived through all of the illnesses and the maladies he had, and he beat every one of them most of the time. I think the family, as was said earlier, would truly like this to be a celebration of Stan's life. So put a smile on your face and let's have a little fun. The number of people here, I think, has been held down by request, but there are still a lot of people here, and it's a testament to Stan and his many friends. You'll notice I'm using notes. Mr. Toastmaster didn't do that. I'm doing it for 2 reasons. First of all, I'm old, and I don't want to tax my brain so much that I have a blowout or anything. We certainly couldn't have picked a better place than the Bird Key Yacht Club to have this event. Stan came here with Betty Ann in the early 90s, and the contributions that they have both made, primarily Stan in the area of tennis, have provided a legacy for all of the members who are here today and those who will be future members of this club. A surprise to no one, Vicki and I met Stan through some tennis activities at Longboat Key Club. There's a famous story about a wedding in St. Petersburg, and most of you have heard that before, where we met Stan through a friend of ours, and we won't go into that today. As I say, Stan and Betty joined the Bird Key Yacht Club here in the early 90s, and Stan's focus and passion quickly became the tennis facility. At that time, which I'm not sure, Betty Ann, but was probably about 1991 or somewhere in that area. The tennis courts out here consisted of 2 hard cement courts, which were used not very much at all. So in quick order, Stan, first of all, convinced Vicki and I that we needed to join over here and move our boat over from Longboat Key Club, which we did. And Stan convinced the board and the membership that those 2 courts out here needed to be converted to hard-true and clay. And he did that, as he does everything, very persistently. And once that was done, which was not an inexpensive project for this club, just like the new air conditioner won't be inexpensive. Hopefully we're going to get that pretty soon here. If you can feel the heat like I can. So the conversion started to the hard-true courts, and at the same time Stan helped recruit other tennis players, primarily from Longboat Key Club, which included the Walls, and the Minnicks, and the Briggs, and the Whitmans, and the Shainers, and the Klingemans, and others. And we became the core of what was the tennis group out here. At this time, Stan, with the help of others, speeches to the board and what have you, convinced the board that we needed a third court. And there were two reasons. Obviously, that provided 50% more playing time with a third court. But also that allowed us to participate in the leagues that Bob referred to, which are both men's and women's leagues here in Sarasota. And the requirement is that you have 3 courts, they be clay, and that's why we went in that direction. And Stan was certainly the leader of it, which allowed us to begin to form teams here at Bird Key Yacht Club, and gave the club some publicity at the same time. At the same time, Stan was responsible primarily for hiring our first club pro, whose name was Philippe, and we all enjoyed Philippe, taking lessons and playing with Philippe. And he became Stan's partner many times. I can't tell you the number of times that Stan would call me up and say, Jerry, how about next Thursday morning? We'll have a match. And you play with maybe your regular partner, Bill Stanford, and we'll either play at Bird Key or maybe at a private court over on Longboat Key. So I'd show up, and guess who Stan's partner was? It was Philippe. Well, Stan liked to win, obviously, and he won most of those matches, but Philippe was very good at making the play good for all who played with him. Tennis, at that point, pretty much became, I guess the second leading activity at this club behind boating, and it was primarily because of one Stan Waldheim. That's not counting the primary activity around here, which is obviously eating and drinking. But that was quite an accomplishment, led by this man who loved tennis and the fun it brought to his life and others. Stan's friends and his family should be very proud of what he accomplished at this club. I would hope that something associated with tennis at Bird Key Yacht Club will eventually be dedicated to Stan, whether it be the courts or a bench or whatever it is. He deserves it, and it should be done. The highlight of Stan's year every year was something that we called the tennis ball, which was held every spring. And much of the time, the dress for that event was white tennis shorts and white shoes and tennis socks and a tuxedo. And Stan just loved to get dressed like that. He would come over here and have the time of his life. And of course, at the same time, being very festive and unique in terms of dress, Stan would hire the entertainment. And that was usually Lee, who I think is still here. And then at some point in the evening, Stan would get a hold of the microphone, which was a mistake, really. And he would give out the awards for the tournaments, and he'd give out all kinds of trophies, and he would introduce Lee and take about 10 minutes to do that with her complete resume from when she was 11 years old, I think. And eventually someone would have to go up and say, Stan, it's time to get on with the program. But it was a lot of fun. He enjoyed it a great deal, and the rest of us did too. But it was difficult to get the microphone back. And I've got some show and tell up here. There are a couple of pictures which depict Stan in his outfit and dancing with anybody, including Betty Ann, but it included many other people. He danced with everybody at the party those nights. I'm sure that at this point Stan is up in heaven and arranging, probably remodeling tennis courts up there and arranging matches for anybody who's interested. And people like Bob Roof and myself, and probably more than half the people in this room who I've been on the court with, look forward to the time when we may arrive there, and I'm sure Stanley will have a match for us. So, in conclusion, let me just say that Stan, God bless you. We will miss you.